The Terran diplomatic vessel Prometheus emerged from hyperspace with deliberate grace, its obsidian hull absorbing, rather than reflecting the light of the nearby binary stars. The ship's arrival at the Galactic Assembly's headquarters on Station 7 caused an immediate stir among the gathered representatives of the 100 most powerful spacefaring civilizations. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays showing the massive station ahead. Unlike the ornate vessels of other species, the Prometheus maintained a stark utilitarian appearance that many mistook for technological limitation rather than tactical choice. "They're scanning us again," Lieutenant Marcus Wong reported from his station, amusement evident in his voice. "Seventh time in the last hour. Still can't see past our outer hull." Chen allowed herself a slight smile. "Let them look. They'll see exactly what we want them to see." The Galactic Assembly had summoned Earth's representatives with typical superiority, expecting humanity to come crawling for protection and trade rights. They didn't know that human quantum computers had already cracked their unbreakable encryption decades ago, or that Earth's deep space intelligence network had intercepted their private communications about containing humanity's aggressive expansion. The Prometheus docked with practiced precision at the designated berth. Through the viewport, Chen could see the gathering delegation of alien representatives, the towering Arxer with their crystalline bodies, the collective consciousness of the Zixitli housed in their biomechanical shells, and the ethereal Mirain who existed partially in another dimension. "Final briefing," Chen announced to her team. Ambassador David Rodriguez, a man whose gentle appearance belied decades of experience in interstellar negotiations, stepped forward. Around him gathered the carefully chosen delegation. Dr. Maya Patel, whose groundbreaking work in xenobiology had earned her a Nobel Prize, Colonel James Hunter, whose military record was largely classified, and Dr. Sarah Wong, the quantum computing pioneer who had first broken the Assembly's codes. "Remember," Rodriguez said, his voice calm but firm, "we're not here to beg for admission. We're here to give them one last chance at peaceful coexistence." The delegation moved through the station's pristine corridors, their simple black uniforms a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garb of other species. The Assembly's grand chamber was a marvel of engineering, its transparent dome offering a view of the galaxy they all called home. 200 eyes of varying biological configuration tracked their movement. High-speaker Zinra of the Arxer rose to their full 4-meter height, crystal fragments chiming in what the humans recognized as barely concealed disdain. "Representatives of Earth, we welcome you to the Assembly. We trust you understand the gravity of this summons." Rodriguez stepped forward, his posture relaxed but commanding. "We understand a great many things, High Speaker, including the fact that this summons was preceded by 3 separate meetings of the Assembly's Military Council, all focused on containing Earth's influence." A ripple of unease passed through the gathered aliens. The Zixitli collective buzzed in agitation, their shell's surface rippling. "How did you?" they began, but Rodriguez continued smoothly. "We also understand that Assembly ships have been positioning themselves along our border worlds, that trade routes to our colonies have been systematically restricted, and that certain members have been arming our regional rivals." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. High Speaker Zinra's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. "These are serious accusations, human. Your evidence?" Rodriguez smiled, the kind of smile that should have sent warning signals to every species present. "Oh, we have evidence. The question is, do you want us to present it here, publicly, including the recording of last week's closed session, where the Assembly discussed plans for a protective occupation of Earth's colonies?" The silence that followed was deafening. The humans had just demonstrated knowledge of the Assembly's most secure communications, information that should have been impossible for them to access. The implications were staggering. First contact protocols had labeled humans as a developing species, barely worth noting in galactic politics. Now, as the Assembly representatives looked at the small group of humans standing calmly before them, they began to realize their mistake. They hadn't invited a primitive species to receive judgment. They had invited wolves into their flock, and the wolves had been watching them for a very long time. Chen watched from the Prometheus as the first phase of their plan unfolded. Soon, the assembly would learn just how badly they had underestimated humanity. But for now, they would wait, letting the aliens' own paranoia and suspicion do their work for them. The emergency session of the Galactic Assembly convened 12 hours after the humans' shocking revelation. The Grand Chamber, normally a model of order and decorum, buzzed with nervous energy as species that had been enemies for millennia now huddled together, united in their growing fear of the supposedly primitive humans. High Speaker Zinra's crystalline form cast fractured shadows across the chamber floor as they addressed the gathered representatives. Our deep space sensors have detected no evidence of human surveillance technology. Their ships still use primitive fusion drives. Their colonies are unshielded. How could they have accessed our secure networks? Dr. Maya Patel stood before the assembly, her dark eyes scanning the alien faces with scientific curiosity. Behind her, Ambassador Rodriguez watched as she systematically dismantled their assumptions about human technology. Your sensors detected nothing because you were looking for what you expected to find, she explained, her voice carrying the patience of a teacher. You searched for quantum communication arrays, for tachyon transmitters, for hyperspace probes. We simply chose a different path. With a gesture, she activated a holographic display. The image showed what appeared to be ordinary cosmic background radiation, the kind that filled every corner of space. Nature's own camouflage, she continued. We didn't build massive networks. We didn't need to. We learned to encode our data into the very background noise of the universe. The Zhesli collective's shell rippled with disbelief. Impossible. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical using your methods, Dr. Sarah Wong interrupted, stepping forward. But you never questioned why humans seemed so interested in your cast-off technology, did you? Those primitive fusion drives you mentioned. We reversed engineered them, yes, but not to copy them. To understand their flaws. The assembly chamber grew deathly quiet as Wong continued. While you focused on building bigger engines, more powerful transmitters, we went small. Quantum scale small. Every particle of radiation becoming a potential data carrier. The universe itself became our network. In orbit around Station 7, Admiral Chen watched the proceedings from the Prometheus. Lieutenant Wong's voice came through their secure channel. The Arxer battle fleet is still gathering at coordinates 227 Mark IV. They think their stealth systems keep them hidden. Chen nodded, though her subordinate couldn't see it. And our response. Task Force Omega is in position, using their own sensor shadow for cover. They won't see us until it's far too late. Back in the chamber, Ambassador Rodriguez took center stage. We came here today because, despite your plans and preparations for war, humanity still hopes for peace. But make no mistake, this is not a negotiation where you hold the power. High Speaker Zinra's crystalline form pulsed with barely contained rage. You dare threaten the assembly. Our combined fleets could reduce your worlds to ash. Could they? Colonel Hunter spoke for the first time, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly how a battle would end before it began. Your ships are gathered in attack formation near our border worlds. Did you wonder why we made no move to stop them? The colonel activated another holographic display, this one showing the Arxer fleet. As the assembly watched, hundreds of small signatures appeared around the fleet, signatures that hadn't been there moments before. As we speak, human vessels surround your attack force. They've been there for weeks, hiding in plain sight. One word from Earth, and your mighty fleet becomes a cloud of expanding debris. Panic erupted in the chamber. Species that had prided themselves on their military might now face the revelation that their forces had been compromised without their knowledge. This is merely one example, Rodriguez continued, his voice cutting through the chaos. We could have chosen to demonstrate our capabilities through force. Instead, we're giving you the chance to understand the new reality of our galaxy. The Myrain delegation, usually aloof in their partial dimensional state, shifted uncomfortably. Their spokesperson's ethereal voice carried a note of fear. "What are your demands?" Rodriguez smiled, but it wasn't a smile of triumph. It carried sadness, the weight of knowing that peace sometimes required the credible threat of force. No demands, only an invitation to join us in building something better than the power games you've played for millennia. He gestured to the viewport, where the galaxies spread out before them in all its glory. "We've watched how you treat emerging civilizations, how you manipulate and exploit them under the guise of protection. Humanity refused to accept that future, so we prepared. Now we offer you a choice." The assembly representatives looked at each other, their previous confidence shattered. The humans they had dismissed as primitive now stood revealed as masters of deception and technological innovation. Their carefully laid plans for containing Earth's influence lay in ruins. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, countless human ships waited silently, hidden in the very fabric of the cosmos, ready to enforce the peace they hoped to build. The Galactic Assembly's Grand Archive Hall had never been this crowded. Hundreds of representatives crammed into the vast space, their attention fixed on the holographic displays where Dr. Sarah Wong systematically dismantled everything they thought they knew about human technological advancement. "Your civilizations focused on conquering space," Wong explained, her hands moving through the holographic data with practiced ease. "Humanity chose to understand it instead." The display showed a complex network of quantum-entangled particles spanning the galaxy. Every cosmic ray, every burst of background radiation, became our messenger. Admiral Chen watched from the Prometheus as the Assembly's carefully constructed worldview continued to crumble. Her quantum-linked display showed real-time updates from human assets throughout Assembly space. The aliens' military responses were exactly as predicted: confused, disorganized, and ultimately futile. "Admiral," Lieutenant Wong reported, "the Arxer fleet is attempting to reposition. They're trying to establish a defensive formation." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Let them. Tactical. Maintain surveillance but take no action. Let's see how they handle the uncertainty." Back in the archive hall, Colonel Hunter had taken over the presentation. The grizzled veteran's presence commanded attention as he activated a new series of displays. "For decades, you watched our ships, analyzed our technology, and dismissed us as primitives. You never asked yourselves why we would deliberately show you outdated systems." The displays shifted to show human vessels materializing from what appeared to be empty space, their quantum-shifted hulls becoming visible for the first time. The Assembly representatives gasped as they realized the true extent of human fleet deployment throughout their territory. "Your sensors detected fusion drives because that's what we wanted you to see," Hunter continued. "Meanwhile, our actual propulsion systems." He let the statement hang as the displays showed human ships moving in ways that defied the Assembly's understanding of physics. High-speaker Zinra's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained rage. "This is impossible. Our monitoring stations would have detected." "Your monitoring stations," Dr. Maya Patil interrupted, stepping forward. "Let's talk about those." She brought up new data, showing the internal schematics of Assembly sensor networks. "Did you never wonder why Earth seems so eager to help upgrade your detection systems?" The revelation hit the Assembly like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't just been watching them. They had been instrumental in building the very systems the Assembly relied upon for security. The implications were staggering. Ambassador Rodriguez moved to the center of the hall, his presence somehow filling the vast space. "For generations, the Assembly has played at being the galaxy's shepherds, deciding which species were worthy of advancement, which should be contained, which exploited. You claim to act for the greater good while serving your own interests." He gestured to the gathered representatives. "Look around you. Every piece of technology in this hall, every communication system, every defense grid. How many of them were quietly influenced by human engineering? how many of your secure facilities are truly secure. The ZXSTLE Collective's biomechanical shell rippled with distress as they accessed their networks, desperately searching for confirmation of their worst fears. The Myrain representatives, usually so composed in their partial dimensional state, flickered with anxiety. "We're not here to threaten you," Rodriguez continued, his voice softening. "But humanity will not accept the role you planned for us. We won't be controlled, contained, or exploited. We've spent decades preparing for this moment, hoping it wouldn't be necessary, but ready if it was." From her position on the Prometheus, Admiral Chen received another update. The Assembly's military commands were in chaos as they discovered more and more human influence in their systems. Some species were already standing down their forces, realizing the futility of resistance. Others were desperately trying to purge their networks of suspected human infiltration, not understanding that such infiltration went far deeper than mere computer systems. "The choice before you was simple," Rodriguez announced to the stunned assembly. "Continue down this path of confrontation, knowing that humanity has already positioned itself to respond to any aggression, or join us in building something better. A true galactic community, not an empire masquerading as one." The archive hall erupted in overlapping voices as species that had once looked down on humanity now frantically discussed their options. The humans had not only revealed their technological superiority, but had demonstrated a level of strategic planning that spanned decades. And in the silence of space, countless human ships remained hidden, their quantum-shifted hulls invisible to conventional sensors, ready to emerge if peace proved impossible. The galaxy's balance of power hadn't just shifted, it had been completely rewritten. The Emergency Council of the Assembly's most powerful species convened in what they believed to be their most secure chamber, deep within Station 7's hardened core. The irony that humans had helped design this very room's security systems was lost on none of the Earth delegation watching through quantum-shifted surveillance. High Speaker Zinra's crystalline form had lost its usual brilliance, dulled by the stress of recent revelations. "We've confirmed human presence in 60% of our critical systems. Their influence extends beyond mere technology. They have observers everywhere." The Myrain elder, Void Whisper, flickered between dimensions in agitation. "Our preliminary investigation suggests human cultural advisors have been shaping our society's development for decades. Their entertainment, their art, their philosophy, all carefully crafted to prepare our people for this moment." Admiral Chen watched the proceedings from her command center on the Prometheus, her expression unchanging as reports continued to flow in. Lieutenant Wang appeared at her side, tablet in hand. "Admiral, the Arxer battle fleet is attempting to purge their systems of suspected human influence. They don't realize we're not actually in their computers." "We never needed to be," Chen replied, allowing herself a small smile. "Their own paranoia will do more damage than any cyber attack could." In the Assembly's secure chamber, the ZXSTLE Collective's biomechanical shell churned with calculations as they presented their analysis. "The humans have achieved what we thought impossible. They've turned our own surveillance state against us. Every attempt to monitor them revealed exactly what they wanted us to see." Ambassador Rodriguez stood before the gathered leaders, his simple black uniform a stark contrast to their ornate regalia. "You're still thinking in old paradigms," he said, his voice carrying neither threat nor triumph. "You see our achievements as weapons, our influence as invasion. We've been trying to show you a better way." He gestured, and the chamber's holographic systems activated, systems the Assembly had thought locked down. The display showed thousands of worlds, interconnected by lines of trade and communication. While you built empires through force, we created networks through cooperation. The species you deemed too primitive to contact, we reached out to them. The civilizations you marked for containment, we helped them grow. The revelation hit the Assembly leaders like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't just infiltrated their power structures, they'd been building an alternative to them. Dr. Maya Patel stepped forward, her scientific authority evident in every movement. Your societies are built on the principle of scarcity, fighting over resources, hoarding technology, controlling information. We discovered something different. The universe rewards cooperation more than competition. The display shifted to show neural networks spanning entire star systems, quantum entanglement chains linking distant worlds. Every species has something to contribute, Patel continued. The poetry of the Myrain inspired breakthroughs in our understanding of dimensional physics. The zestly collective consciousness helped us develop our quantum communication networks. Even the Arxer crystal tech showed us new ways to store and process information. High-speaker Zinrus form pulsed with realization. You weren't just studying us. We were learning from you, Colonel Hunter confirmed. All of you, not to exploit your weaknesses, but to understand your strengths. Humanity's greatest asset isn't our technology. It's our ability to adapt, to integrate, to synthesize. The assembly leaders looked at each other. Centuries of political maneuvering and power play suddenly seeming primitive and short-sighted. The humans hadn't come to conquer them. They'd come to evolve them. Ambassador Rodriguez's voice softened. We're offering you a choice. Continue clinging to your old hierarchies, your systems of control and domination, systems we've already proven obsolete, or join us in building something greater than any single species could achieve alone. On the Prometheus, Admiral Chen received the latest updates. Across assembly space, member species were already reaching out through unofficial channels, seeking dialogue with human representatives. The old power structure was crumbling not through force, but through the simple demonstration of a better way. The quantum network is detecting increased communication between assembly worlds, Lieutenant Wang reported. They're bypassing official channels, using the pathways we showed them. Chen nodded. And so the real change begins, not with fleets or ultimatums, but with people choosing a different path. In the secure chamber, the assembly leaders faced a reality they had never prepared for. The humans they had dismissed as primitive had not only surpassed them technologically, but had reimagined the very foundations of galactic civilization. Their carefully maintained system of control hadn't been destroyed. It had been rendered irrelevant. 1 month after humanity's revelations, Station 7 hummed with an energy unlike anything in its centuries-long history. The Grand Chamber, once a theater for power plays and political maneuvering, had been transformed into something unprecedented, a true forum for galactic cooperation. Admiral Chen stood at the viewport of the Prometheus, watching the steady stream of ships arriving from across the galaxy. Not just assembly members now, but representatives from dozens of emerging civilizations that the old order had deemed unworthy of contact. The quantum network buzzed with exchanges of knowledge and culture that would have been unthinkable weeks ago. It's remarkable how quickly they adapted, Lieutenant Wang observed, monitoring the communications traffic. Once they saw another way was possible. People will always choose hope over fear, Chen replied, if you give them the chance. In the chamber below, Ambassador Rodriguez watched as Dr. Maya Patel demonstrated the principles of quantum-shifted propulsion to a mixed group of species. The Arxer crystalline engineers chimed in harmony as they grasped the elegance of the system, while Zixitli collective minds proposed improvements that even humanity hadn't considered. The old assembly would have considered this treason, High Speaker Zinra observed, their crystalline form now restored to its full brilliance, sharing such technology freely. The paradox of knowledge, Rodriguez replied with a smile, is that it grows more valuable the more you share it. The scene repeated across the station. In one section, Myrain philosophers debated consciousness with human AI researchers, their partial dimensional insights opening new avenues of understanding. In another, species that had been bitter enemies now collaborated on solving resource distribution challenges that had sparked centuries of conflict. Colonel Hunter stood with a group of former assembly military commanders, explaining the principles that had allowed human ships to operate undetected for so long. The key was never trying to hide, he explained, but becoming indistinguishable from the natural background of space itself. Dr. Sarah Wong's voice carried across the quantum network, reaching every corner of known space. For too long, we divided the galaxy into advanced and primitive, worthy and unworthy. But the universe itself shows us a different way. Every particle, every wave, every field interconnected in a vast cosmic dance. We just needed to learn how to join it. The display above the chamber showed the real-time spread of the new paradigm. Old barriers between species crumbled as the quantum network expanded, carrying not just data but understanding. The assembly's rigid hierarchy was being replaced by something organic, dynamic, and alive with possibility. On the Prometheus, Admiral Chen received reports from across human space. The last holdouts among the assembly powers had finally stood down their fleets, accepting the inevitability of change. But more importantly, worlds that had never dared to reach for the stars were now joining the galactic community, bringing fresh perspectives and untapped potential. "We're detecting quantum signature duplications," Lieutenant Wong reported excitedly. "They're not just using our technology, they're improving it. The Zhistli Collective just proposed a method to increase network efficiency by 300%. Chen nodded, satisfied. "That's exactly what we hoped for. Not to lead, but to catalyze." In the Grand Chamber, Ambassador Rodriguez addressed the gathered representatives one final time. The old power dynamics were gone. He spoke not as a victor to the vanquished, but as one equal to many. "What we showed you wasn't just technology," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the station. "It was proof that cooperation trumps domination, that diversity breeds innovation, that the universe is vast enough for all of us to grow without diminishing each other." The quantum network pulsed with agreement, thousands of minds across hundreds of worlds unified not in submission but in shared purpose. The old assembly's dream of control had been replaced by something far more powerful, genuine collaboration. High Speaker Zinra stepped forward, their crystalline form resonating with newfound understanding. "For millennia, we thought we were shepherding the galaxy. In truth, we were containing it, limiting it. Now we see the power of letting it flourish." As the gathered species dispersed to continue their collaborations, Admiral Chen received one final report. The quantum network had detected the emergence of 3 new spacefaring civilizations in the past week alone. Under the old assembly, they would have been contained, controlled, exploited. Now they would join a galaxy where every voice could contribute to the chorus of creation. The humans had not come to conquer the galaxy. They had come to set it free. And in doing so, they had transformed not just interstellar civilization, but the very meaning of power itself.